Fresh off the heels of their last album, BAND-MAID wastes zero time in continuing their drive towards their goal of world domination. They drive for this so hard, in fact, that their next album is called just that, World Domination. Released Valentine's Day 2018, 1 whole year after Just Bring It, this album continues their pursuit towards the hard rock sound they've been trying to perfect since Brand New Made. This time around though, they start to experiment with ballads, trying to broaden their horizons, making them a more complete band overall. Do they succeed in that? Yeah, of course they do, they're fucking BAND-MAID. In my opinion, this is their second best album as of date behind Conquer, but this album does contain my favorite song from them and quite possibly my favorite song period. So without further ado, let's jump straight into the fire. Starting off here with I Can't Live Without You, we get my favorite trope with Akane doing the whole 1, 2, 3, 4 thing to open up the whole album and everyone just blasts away. Very high energy to begin with. Right away I notice how prominent Miku is here on the rhythm guitar. A lot of the time, it's hard for me to even hear her because Kanami is so overpowering. But here, I can hear all three of them perfectly. Great sign for things to come. This small moment where the notes are held while Akane plays Psyche in is wonderful. Again, one of my favorite things. When Psyche does show up, we get a pretty low droning noise with it occasionally perking up, but for the most part, it stays low and out of the way. It does pick up once the chorus hits in, because of course it does, it's the chorus, gotta have the full energy for the most memorable part of the track. That low droning can still be heard, courtesy of the amazing Misa, but the energy of both Akane and Kanami make it so that it's just barely hearable, taking over, making this part of the song an easy spot to bop your head up and down to. Akane does a wonderful job of keeping a nice balance between hitting the drums and the cymbals. The second verse starts with both Miku and Kanami doing entirely different parts from what they were doing in the first verse. They contrast very well as both of them are playing into a single ear rather than both going into both ears, making it very easy to listen to both. Both are in that middle ground of not being too light but not being too low and rough either, striking that perfect balance. Due to this, they blend very well together, despite the fact I just said they also contrast. It's both, and that doesn't make sense. But music doesn't really make sense sometimes, and that's why I love it so much. We get a little squeak from Kanami right before they blast into the second chorus. Again, BAND-MAID is really good at making both verses equally as important by not having them sound the same, always changing something up, keeping us listeners on our toes. Kanami then wails on her instrument for the solo part, but I gotta applaud the rest of the members as well, as they keep the pace going on and shine just as much as Kanami does. Although they don't take the spotlight away from her, but they are noticeable if you're paying attention to the person not named Kanami. After that breathtaking performance, we get to my favorite part of the whole song, where you have 5 totally different parts playing here, blending in beautifully. We have the awesome droning sound of Misa, setting a nice foundation for both Miku and Kanami, with one of them, I'm going to assume Kanami, does a good amount of scales while throwing in other stuff in random intervals. While you have Miku playing the lower part, though I'm still not 100% sure, but I'm fairly certain. Akane here isn't doing too much, just pedaling every now and then, slowing down the tempo to give more emphasis on the rest of the members. Then you have Psyche and her beautiful voice. To me, this section belongs to her, and honestly, this whole album really belongs to her. It took me so many re-listens for this album because Psyche is too damn good, making me miss so much stuff. Psyche does the best part of the whole song, saying the name of the track right before everyone blasts into the chorus for a final time. One more awesome instrumental section from Kanami as she wails away on her strings, and Akane hammering those drums play us out on the first track. What an opening to the album. Somehow though, the intensity increases with the next track, Play. I was always fearing having to do this song, not because it's bad, far from that. It's mainly that they have so many good live versions that blow the studio version out of the water. It got to a point where I nearly decided on looking at a live version rather than the studio version. I ultimately did go with the studio version since this whole series has been studio versions, and the studio version is still a great listen. So enough rambling on with the song. Jesus, how many times did I say studio version? What a fucking opening here. Everything about it is just perfection in song form. The opening riff from Misa, the thunderous striking of the drums and the guitars, followed with some wonderful riffs from both Kanami and Misa, setting the tone for one of the best tracks from BAND-MAID. I love that when Psyche comes in, you have both Misa and Kanami talking to each other, going back and forth for a little bit before Misa goes off on her own, continuing the riff from the opening section, while Kanami continues with the interjection every so often. Misa is the queen as she continues with her wonderful riffs. God, this entire opening is entirely for Misa to show who she is and why she is loved by every fan. The interjection this time around is the very first sound we hear in the track, the thunderous sound from the drums and the guitars, but that sound does get softer as we get closer to the chorus, as both Akane and Kanami also want to get involved in the fun, with Akane doing the awesome bongo spot, as I call it, before we finally enter the pre-chorus. For the next 20 seconds, the intensity the girls are playing at is something that I haven't heard out of them yet, except for Conquer, but that came after this. The only two I'm really able to describe what they're doing is Akane and Psyche, and that's because they dominate this whole thing, making it easy to decipher. I can hear Kanami perfectly fine, but her sound is so high that it's hard for me to tell exactly what she's doing, if that makes any sense. What I'm trying to get at is that Akane dominates the whole section here and everyone tries to be as cool as her. The way she pounds on her drums is so addictive, it's really difficult to even hear anybody else. Psyche, on the other hand, is beautiful as always and demands that you sing along with her, even if you don't understand what she's saying. It's so easy to get lost in her voice, singing along with her, and then the next thing you know, the song's over and the only thing you did was sing with Psyche. It gets even better with the yas and woes once they come in. Once they do come in, the guitar sound changes, and it's the only thing that changes initially, but it makes everything sound different. It's insanity. Don't worry though, once Psyche brings the woes in, Akane just lets loose, giving us her full power, and nothing I can say will do it justice, so just listen to her awesomeness. The section between chorus 1 and verse 2 is amazing as well. The low droning noise of Kanami blends wonderfully with Misa and her low bass sound, with Akane still pounding away, but isn't as big of a force as she was a couple of seconds ago, letting the rest of the crew take the spotlight in this short time frame. Even when Psyche and Miku go back and forth, it's nothing that major, it sounds pretty much the same as it was during the interlude. I think the guitars change ever so slightly, but it's nothing that major. Besides, your focus here should be on the two vocalists going back and forth, since they don't really do that a whole lot, so I consider it a big thing when they do it. Somehow though, this gets even better because Misa gets her time to show us what she can do, taking over pretty much from now until the chorus. She does get interrupted, in air quotes, by Kanami every now and then, but I do like that Kanami's very quick with the strums, not taking too much time away from the Queen of Bass. Misa gets done with that and it's back to the chorus for round 2 before we enter the really fun stuff. Our queen once again shows off just how awesome she is, taking the spotlight again and giving us an awesome riff, with Kanami once again getting her stuff in every now and then to beef up the sound. There's also something I didn't notice until I was writing this, and that's Akane's amazing part during all this. Her machine gun pedaling is back, and she gives an awesome strike of her jump kit during that, giving it that extra oomph that becomes addictive to me. Very hard to even hear anything else now. She also does a nice job at playing the cymbals, adding that light element in a part that's very low and bassy. The only thing that isn't great here is the twang that Kanami gives off before Saiki comes back in. Literally the only thing that doesn't quite sit well with me, but this is remedied in the live versions, so it's all good in my book. The melding of every part in the next portion is magnificent, and again, it's really hard to tell who's doing what, but that's not a bad thing because it's an amazing sound and that's all I really care about. Right before the last instrumental section, there's a nice part where we get some wonderful pedaling from Akane, and Kanami is really nice here as well. She's so light during this, it's really difficult to tell that she's even playing. I know she is, but it's hard to hear her if that makes sense. The last 10 seconds just have Kanami going on fire. Literally my notes say, ending solo by Kanami is just straight up fire. Holy fuck. If she had continued for 10 seconds longer, I'm pretty sure that she would have just started her guitar on fire from strumming too fast. The perfect ending to this track, and I do highly recommend you listen to a live version of this too, and luckily enough they uploaded one to their official channel, so you have no excuse. Very interesting opening for the third track, One and Only, where Kanami and Miku are playing very odd sounds. Not really sure how to describe it other than that, even after listening to it about 15 times in a row, and I think that's 100% due to Misa doing slides during it. This is all in the first 5 seconds by the way, and after this, they just start to jam like they always do, typical stuff here. Akane really likes her cymbals during this bit, it's the main thing I hear. Not too much is going on when Saiki comes in, just them holding their notes, but they do have a staccato bit in there, so that's nice to hear. Compared to the last track, this one's a lot lighter, but it still keeps the edge that keeps it from being a full ballad. And this is 100% shown in the chorus as they are playing really light, but Akane keeps everything going with her nice pedaling and her awesome cymbal playing. Holy god, do I love her cymbals. Saiki's also really good here. Love the use of English during the chorus, which automatically makes this an amazing chorus. Akane has this amazing part that literally lasts a second, but it grabs my attention and leaves so suddenly it feels like I made the whole thing up. The blending of the two vocalists in the second verse is really amazing, and it's even better since the instruments aren't overpowering them in the slightest, giving the two of them 100% of the spotlight. Misa did have a pretty nice riff during this section as well, though it can be a little difficult to hear. She does perk up in between the two vocalist spots, so it tells us that she is playing, though not the main focus. Miku whispers into our ears, and the fucking sound is something so different, it doesn't sound like the same instruments to me. Psyche hits us with an oh yeah before they get back into the normal chorus sound, which is still fun to jam out to as they change up the words slightly to what they were before.
Yeah, show me.
Halfway through now, Miku hits us with the "let's go!" and the whole sound changes with it being led by Akane doing some solid pedaling, really letting us enjoy it, and the light guitar play by Kanami lends itself beautifully along with Psyche's ever-pleasant voice, making for a perfect section here. Track ends with more beautiful vocal work, and we are played off by the once again great instrumentals. Domination is up next, and this is pretty much the title track of the album. Not quite there, but it's the closest they've gotten to a title track. This one was one of the easier songs to break down, since the limited release of Conqueror had the song available as an instrumental version with you being able to watch every member play their part. So I truly understand what is happening during this song. There's another track like this, but we'll get to that later on. Beginning of the track starts out with very heavy strumming from Kanami before blasting into her awesome fast strumming with Miku and Misa on the side doing the slides, and Akane has a nice steady beat to round out this wonderful opening 15 seconds until Psyche comes in. Once Psyche does make her presence known, Akane is the only one who plays the whole time as everyone else disappears, except for the brief moments when the guitars come back in, but this gives us the time to bask in the glorious Psyche, which I'm always a fan of. Getting closer to the chorus is when the fun really starts to pick up, as Kanami is off on her own essentially, with Misa and Miku picking up her part, and it's very nice as the ramp up to the chorus is beautiful. Right before the chorus though, we get this really nice sound, scale-like to me, really hype way to enter into the main portion of the song. The guitar parts during this chorus are mesmerizing to say the least. The way they continue to fluctuate up and down but not sound repetitive and boring is amazing work by both Kanami and Miku. Have to love the steady, hard drumming Akane displays during this part as well. While she doesn't go crazy like the last few songs, she instead keeps everything in line by staying this way, and it's the thing I rock out to without question when it comes to this part. Finally, we have Psyche rounding everything out with that catchy voice of hers, making it easy to listen to and sing along with, just like every song she's a part of. With all that combined, we have here an amazing chorus that I think is one of their best. It's always one I'll jam out to no matter where. Interlude section time, Kanami shows what she's really made of, playing this beautiful part where she's frantically playing the notes on her guitar while keeping a very nice strumming speed. It's complicated to explain, but I remember watching her do it on the instrumental video and was blown away by what she was doing. Nothing of note at first with the second verse, but that all changes when both Kanami and Miku do an absolutely gorgeous slide. My god, I'm so happy whenever I hear a slide. Once that happens, you get all three of them essentially talking to one another. It's not this long, drawn-out solo section like usual, but instead a nice brief moment where all three play a chord or so, and then the next one plays, so on and so on. It's very cute to listen to, as you have Saiki singing over it the entire time, as well as Miku, so it's not really even played up as a big deal, but I thought it was a neat thing to mention. We get the build up to the chorus once again, and this time I really enjoy Akane playing around with one of her cymbals, which is very noticeable to hear. Little things like that is why I enjoy really going in depth on these tracks, finding things I never noticed before, maybe even finding stuff that will become my new favorite thing. Instrumental section kicks in as Kanami and Miku open this up strong with some nice chords, while Misa plucks away with a singular note plus holds on to the string for added effect. Then they all do the main part of this section where Kanami goes off on her own with some nice tapping and breathtaking strumming, which is always a fun time. Misa and Miku once again hold down the fort with the same chords they were playing earlier, and Akane does some nice staccato pedaling, giving us all the time in the world to focus on Kanami here, and she 100% delivers like she always does. Gotta love at the end though, Akane has to get her shine in during all this and goes all out, banging on the bongos to play this part out and leading Saiki back into it for one final round. Not much before the final chorus, as it's more of the stop-start deal that's been happening a fair bit in this track, but does steady up as the whole group readies for the final chorus. The track ends as it usually does for this band, with them just blasting away as Kanami gives us one final solo where she strums fast enough to set the goddamn house on fire. But I do need to compliment Miku here for keeping steady with the main chords as Kanami is doing her own thing. Great track, one of my favorites, and one I always go back to. Fate starts with a really low sound along with some amazing sounding haze from the vocalists, and right after that we get Misa with a great sounding bass riff before Saiki comes in. Good start despite the fact that it isn't as complicated as the other songs before it. My favorite part of this whole song is the beginning of the chorus. Not gonna say anything, I'm just gonna let the two ladies take it away. This entire chorus from Saiki is hype as fuck to me, as I can't help but sing along with her, making it very difficult to even listen to the rest of the group in this part. But I did, and I do enjoy the moment where they get super high, going back and forth with each other, and this part of the end here, where someone goes down the scale. Really great stuff. Before the instrumental section, you get Saiki holding the Fate from the chorus into the beginning of it, alongside the beautiful overhead voice of one of the vocalists, before Kanami starts shredding away.
This voice is inside my heart. We are pure. Lose are pure.
I do really enjoy how significantly higher she is than the rest of the group, making her stand out that much more. Saiki heads out with a before the rest of them play us out. While the song isn't anything too special, I still get hyped as fuck whenever that chorus hits, and that's all I need out of a song. That one brief moment where I can be crazy as hell. Spirit starts with some nice drum play from Akane along with some amazing strumming from Kanami, creating a nice easy sound to listen to. Once the lyrics begin, Kanami strums the entire time essentially. It is very hypnotic in a way, and it continues up until the pre-chorus where there's more of a fuller sound with Misa getting in there a little bit. The chorus sounds like a completely different song on the opening bit where it's more fleshed out and Psyche gets me hyped once again. Her voice is perfect. Honestly, I don't know how many times I've said that throughout this series, but I will continue to say it because it's true. Ending to the chorus does get better as Akane ramps up her drumming speed. Really good sound as well from Kanami, again going hand in hand with the low sound of the drums, with Psyche rounding off the sound once again with her amazing vocals, creating yet again another chorus that's easy to listen to. The beginning of verse 2 is another section in which the guitarists go back and forth with each other, and again, I'm all here for that as this lets Psyche shine like she always does, but also creating an interesting sound to listen back to. After that, it's back to the pre-chorus from the first verse, but right before entering the second chorus, Akane hits us with this amazing pedaling that leaves me in awe, but I can't think about it too long because we got the hype chorus coming up again. We have some awesome sounding vocals from Psyche. Her vocals have been on point this entire album thus far, and they will only get better from here. Then Kanami goes off like she always does, but I did notice the beginning here, they're the same chords as in Domination. Amazing whispering from Miku before the final chorus, and Kanami has one hell of a solo to play. Much like Fate, nothing too complicated here, but it keeps up the energy level that they've been building up this entire time.
That's the way it goes.
Next up on the list is the Miku only song, Rockin' Me, and it starts off entirely different from the rest of the songs so far, with claps and a general happier vibe. That does quickly go away though as everyone comes crashing in with this really solid sound as Akane does what she normally does, and it's very exciting to hear. Also, the guitars play in this way that make them sound like foul drums. Really interesting that all three of them combine to establish the beat rather than Akane doing that on her own. Once Miku begins to sing, everyone doesn't play except for Kanami, and the claps come back, but they don't stay for too long as Misa jumps in and a slide from Kanami before getting into the normal stuff. From there, Kanami starts doing some very light tapping, in a way taking over, but not taking over, like she normally does. It's just that her part sticks out that much more since Miku isn't playing. Some nice fast strumming from Kanami before everything explodes into the chorus, which is a huge shock, as nothing was playing beforehand, so it's quite a jolt of energy to say the least. Nothing too special about the chorus. Some nice solid playing from everyone, with nothing standing out other than the haze that are awesome to hear, and you get Kanami as a backup vocalist. That high energy level carries over into the interlude where they keep it going with Akane giving us that hard-hitting stuff that's been present throughout the whole album, and you get that really thick strumming that's impossible not to get excited over. There's something that happens during the beginning of verse 2, and I'm not quite sure what it is. It might be Kanami, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm only guessing it's a sound they put in afterwards. But whatever, it's still beautiful and it fits right at home here. The thing I love most about the Miku solo tracks is that they feel very different to a Saiki track, and that's a great thing. Two different vocalists with two very different personalities should have very different sounding songs, and I love how they realize that. Good on them. We get slides and a nice filter on Miku's voice before we're back into the pre-chorus section as we get some very nice staccato play from Kanami, and Akane pounds away frantically at the very end here to signal the chorus has begun. Beautiful stuff. After chorus 2, it's an immediate jump into the instrumental section, and Kanami continues the theme of strumming so fast to the point where she's going to catch fire. She continues on. I do also enjoy the haze that are played throughout, a nice little touch if I do say so. After that, we get Miku with her very minimal stuff, and then with no stuff, and her voice is just as beautiful as Saiki's. It's got that level of happiness that goes perfectly with Saiki's, and hearing Miku does always bring a smile to my face, showing us that she's not just a backup vocalist, and could be the lead vocalist if things had gone differently. Got some really nice instrumentals to play us off. Gotta compliment Misa here, since her part is the only one that sticks out to me. No real reason, it's just a good part and I like to hear it. Now that we're about halfway through the album, I think it's the best time to go over the production behind the album. You know, the usual stuff I do around here. As I mentioned at the top of this video, the album was released on Valentine's Day 2018 in preparation for the band's upcoming world tour, with the album debuting at number 9 on the Japanese Oricon Weekly Albums chart, the band's highest rated album at the time of writing this. The band wrote all of the lyrics, wrote the music, and did the arrangements on their own, with the only help being on Fate, Rockin' Me, and Turn Me On. The first and last ones were helped by Kentaro Akutsu. Rockin' Me was helped by the sound designer Tian Noa. Miku wrote the lyrics to every song by herself, with the exception of Daydreaming, where she and Saiki co-wrote it. This is the third album released under the Crown Stones label, and that's literally all the information I could find. I did find an interview where they discussed one song on the album, and I'll get to that later on, but there's not a whole lot else I could find. They did mention in that interview that they finally wanted to do a ballad as it would be a good breather for a live performance, and it wasn't something they'd done before, so they wanted to try that out, and oh boy, trust me, we'll get to that song. I can infer though that they wanted to continue improving their hard rock sound that they've started developing in the last album and refine their specific style of music, and I think it does show here. The songs are starting to get more and more complicated, with more layers of each instrument on top of each other. There's still a few songs that don't have that, giving us the listeners a chance to relax before they start blasting off again with the style only BAND-MAID knows how to do. I'm gonna rapid fire the next 3 songs as I don't have too much to say on them. Clang starts off with a nice steady sound from Akane and some light play from the guitars before blasting into it, continuing for a good while, longer than I expected. Saiki comes in and the guitars do the whole start-stop thing that I'm a huge fan of, can't get enough of it. The chorus hits really well with both Miku and Kanami doing really good stuff, with Kanami doing her own thing, leaving Miku to handle the meat of the chorus, and she does a fantastic job in the role, showing her growth from album to album. They then transition into everyone doing a much lighter noise than before, so it's really hard for me to even tell what they're playing, but it does sound nice for what it is. The only thing I'm sour on in this chorus is the woes. Just something about them turned me off. Not enough for me to hate the song, but just a small blemish. Wonderful introduction into the instrumental section, as it literally sounds like a monster takes over Kanami for a brief moment, before she overtakes it herself and belts out an insane solo. Need to also give props to Akane for her incredible drumming during all that, and props to Misa, she's also great. Start, stop, beginning to the next track turn me on before getting into that rough, heavy sound that's been present throughout the entire album. They then get a part where they do 2 of the same bit before going down the scale, repeating this until Psyche comes in. Even though it might get repetitive, it's still addictive to listen to, and you can't go wrong with a music addiction. There's this very solid sound that happens throughout the whole song. Nothing too special of note. You do get a few instances where the tempo increases very slightly, but just for a moment before going back down. Do get some really nice Miku vocals during the chorus with an awesome filter over her voice. Incredible stuff. At the halfway point of the second verse, the pace gets frantic with Akane taking the lead here, shooting the tempo up significantly with the rest following suit. I do enjoy the squeaking of the guitars during this portion as well. The instrumental section begins with this wonderful section of Misa and Kanami talking back and forth. It's the best thing about this track, hands down. Kanami then gets to shine even more as she gets the full spotlight to shred away like she always does. It ends with some phenomenal drum play by Akane before Psyche comes in to send us off on one final journey through this song of theirs. The 10th track off the album is Carry On Living, and it starts off with a really rough, low-sounding riff from Kanami, followed by the rest of the group joining her. And when they join, she starts to do an entirely different part, handing her old part off to Miku, who does it just as good as Kanami. Kanami now has a very light but still rough sounding part that goes good to contrast her old part. I keep mentioning it, but my god, Psyche's voice is so beautiful and lovely. I honestly can't get enough of her voice, and it's a big reason why I'm addicted to this group. Love the beginning of the chorus as Psyche shouts the name of the song before the group blasts away, and a really fun tune that's easy to bop to. Holy fuck, this next section, I have so much fun every time I hear it. It starts with Akane going off the charts with her amazing drum work. You get this seductive voice out of Psyche as she rambles on in English, and you get Misa being the queen of the bass before they blast into that awesome chorus once again. I'm having so much fun, and it's only halfway through the song, goddammit. It keeps getting better though, as right after the second chorus, straight into the solo, no build up, nothing. I fucking love that. I think I'm in love with this track. Holy shit. Kanami wails in the best possible way, with it being in the higher pitch, which is usually when the solo is supposed to invoke some kind of emotion. Plus Misa gets a shine during this bit as well. Saiki gets some time on her own, and it's just as wonderful as everything before this. Holy hell. Writing all this down makes me realize how much I've slept on this track. This one is easily one of their best, and I think it's cracked my top 5 without a doubt. Kanami then gets a second solo, oh my god! Though it sounds like a continuation of the previous one, still very good, and it was led in by Saiki and her woes. The track ends with Saiki actually singing over the whole group instead of the group playing us off. I love the change of the formula. Check this track out, you will not be disappointed. Trust me. To go in stark contrast with Carry On Living, the next song is the first ballad from BAND-MAID, Daydreaming. This song right here is my favorite song from the group, and quite possibly my favorite song ever. There's so much I want to talk about with this specific track that I'm going to dedicate an entirely separate video just talking about it. This is the track I mentioned earlier where I found a good amount of info on it, but I'll be saving it for the other video. I know it seems like a cop-out, but I don't want 30 minutes of this video to be just on Daydreaming. To give my short thoughts on it, Saiki is beautiful here as she 100% makes the song, and Miku does a great job as well backing her up. The rest of the group does a great job of really finding that balance between having it be a straight up ballad in places and inserting the rock side into it. This is the one song I can always listen to, no matter my mood, since it makes me feel a sense of happiness, and I do believe that this is a perfect song. Please listen to this, even if you don't like ballads, as this, to me, certifies that anything this group does turns to gold. Amazing stuff, ladies. I love all 4 minutes of it. To go along with Daydreaming, the next song is also really soft, Anemone. This starts with an acoustic guitar that's really nice to hear, especially after hearing nothing but electric this entire time. Saiki really shines during this whole song, I'll just say that now. Nice and slow start, letting us take in this very different approach from the group, and I'm really enjoying it, but I don't want everything from them to be a slow ballad, since I like the hard stuff as well. They then add some claps to the sound, mostly for the live audience experience, but they sound fantastic. Everything here is perfect so far. I'm honestly a sucker for the soft, slow tracks like this. Very easy to kick back, relax, and listen to with ease. Kanami hits us with this heart-wrenching solo. Holy god, do I feel the emotions pouring out of her instrument, as her fast strumming melts my heart. Have to give a hell of a shout out to Miku as well. Her part fits perfectly with this outstanding solo from Kanami. Kanami even holds the last note as Saiki sings, not able to stop her outcry but knows she must in order for the song to reach a conclusion. The sound does get ever so harder as something happens. Like, I can hear what happens, but I'm not able to describe what happens. Saiki does continue to sing in her soft voice though, not giving way to Kanami. Great touch there. Another amazing instrumental section from them, Kanami always shines, with the start-stop strumming from Miku Misa, that gets a thumbs up for me. Same as the last instrumental section as Kanami holds her last note into Psyche's singing, but this time, Psyche is nearly on her own with only Misa and Akane playing, but they really fade away as my full attention is on Psyche, and boy does she deliver. Once again they go back to that really intense sound from before, but once again, Psyche and Miku this time keep it from getting too much like a rock song. The last section is the really intense stuff once again, and nothing I can say will add to the beauty of it. All I'll say is that Kanami sounds very distant from most of it as she's drifting away. Wonderful stuff. Check this one out as well. If you weren't a fan of the last two ballads, the next song, Alive or Dead, goes back to the hard rock that the group mainly does. Opens up with some wonderful stuff from Akane striking her drum kit very nicely, and Kanami is no slouch here either, with nothing too special, but it's still easy to listen to. Psyche comes in and her voice is mystifying, getting me hooked onto whatever she's saying. The filter being a huge reason for that. I love the filters over her voice. Very simple stuff from here until we hit the pre-chorus, but the simple stuff is honestly really awesome. The thick, full sound coming from the guitars is really amazing. Sounds exactly like rock and roll to me. And you even have Akane playing around with the cymbals again, plus Miku joins in the vocals for a brief spell. Akane hits us with the bongos before they blast away into the chorus where it's very steady. Kanami not doing too much here, being on the lighter side of things, but Akane is the star here. Just out of this world stuff from her. Verse 2 keeps that same awesome filter over Psyche's voice, and the guitars are once again doing that start-stop thing that they've been doing throughout the whole album. Miku once again shines in the backup vocals department, even if she's not doing too much or is doing it for that long. Still nice to sprinkle her voice in there as it works wonderfully with Psyche's voice. The fucking solo, oh my god. It sounds like a goddamn laser show. And Miku joins in about halfway through. Sure, she doesn't stick around long, but for her to even do that shows how much she's grown on the instrument throughout each album. This being her coming out party in my opinion. I can't add anything else to this, it truly speaks for itself. This track ends with what is essentially the opening bit again. A nice easy way to end it after that showing of dominance that was the solo. I'm still trying to recover from that in all honesty. We're getting very close to the end here with the 14th track, Dice. This is the other track that I was able to see the instrumentals of, the same way I saw Domination. Dice starts off beautifully with an Akane plus Misa duet, something that doesn't happen too often. Gotta love the bongos as the first thing to hear along with a very low drone from Misa. Akane pounds the cymbals to indicate that Miku and Kanami are coming in and they blast it out of the park. While it isn't too mind-blowing, it's in such contrast to what was happening just before that it's hard not to get excited when they both come in. Akane gives a lot of love to her cymbals early on here. I really love the cymbals, and I honestly don't know why. Psyche enters and the sound takes a back seat, but is still very effective at getting me hyped. Kanami has a nice little riff, and Misa has probably my favorite part of the entire song already. It's so catchy and so drawn out that it catches your attention, refusing to let go even for a moment. Another solid section where Kanami slowly gets lower with her notes, and Misa's very addictive with her riff here as well. The chorus is really amazing, as it usually is with them. Kanami keeps up the status quo by doing some nice lighter stuff that almost sounds like white noise the longer it goes on. Akane with a nice steady beat here, not going too crazy. Very quick part in the chorus where it sounds like a goddamn demon is screaming out to the crowd. Awesome stuff here. Not sure what it was, but I would like some more of it, please and thank you. The second verse starts off with a different sound than the first, which isn't surprising in the slightest, given BAND-MAID. Nothing is really solid in this part of the verse aside from Akane, who has to say solid in order for this to even sound good. Everyone else though, they play their notes at seemingly random times, although I know it isn't actually random, but it feels random. There isn't too much to it beyond that in all honesty, because it doesn't last long as they're right back into the previous verse's sound, but that first section still intrigues me. After that is the chorus again, which is always a good time, and now it's time for the instrumental section, usually the best part of every song. This starts off the same way this entire track did, with the combination of Misa and Akane, who I think are just doing the opening bit again, but I'm not going to complain because it's a good riff, get the most out of it. Also need to point out how Kanami holds on to her last note long enough to go into this bit. I love that so much. Not letting us forget that she's about to rock out, and rock out she does indeed. It's still in that light style that's been prevalent in the whole song, but the way she strums and plays with the strings is incredible, and she ends it by going higher and higher, a favorite trope of mine. While it wasn't mind-blowing, not everything needs to be like that, it keeps it nice and simple, so everyone can enjoy it without going super crazy. Another section where it's pretty minimal and Psyche takes the spotlight. It's pretty much the same as the first one, but Misa has a really nice part here. Doesn't do too much, but it's an earworm for me, and that's what matters. Very subtle, but you can hear Miku on the backup vocals just before they blast into the final chorus. Track ends with the beautiful noise again before Akane leaves, giving the guitarists their final sound before ending it herself. Lovely stuff and a great way to end this track off. That does it for all the original BAND-MAID songs on here, as the final one is their first published cover, Honey by Muck. I'm not going to go too in-depth on the original track, but it feels like an entirely different track to the one BAND-MAID puts out. The OG one has more of a funk-like approach to it, very interesting to hear and has an addictive quality to it. My only main complaint is the main dude's voice can be a little off-putting at times, to say the least, but 100% listen to it. It's a good time for sure. The opening of the BAND-MAID version has this really interesting bit where it's overhead music playing. It sets up a nice tone for the track, and this always gets me hyped for the upcoming song, as I know it's going to be fantastic. We get Akane coming in before anyone else, pedals for a bit, hits her drums a bit, right before everyone comes in, and then it happens. The explosion happens. The explosion that happens here is magical. The little twang of the guitars as they jam out, it's wonderful to hear, and it's very different to anything else they've done. Psyche comes in and her voice is, like always, wonderful to hear. It's very different to anything beforehand. When she does come in, only Kane's playing, but Kanami does come in to do that awesome beginning riff during the pause in Psyche's part. Then both Kanami and Misa decide to join in on the fun, with Misa giving a really low part that almost gets lost but stands out just enough not to be. Kanami has a really simple part that's the main focus here. Not really sure how to describe it other than it sounds like a wah wah type noise, but it's really cool. The next part is probably my favorite of the whole song. It is really just Miku and Psyche babbling nonsense for a little bit in a really fun way. It reminds me of a certain song by 96 Neko, and I'll put an example in here right now. This part's very catchy and hard not to rewind every time. Kanami hits us with a slide as we head into the chorus. Psyche belts out the name of the track as the band continues to jam the fuck out. I absolutely love the chorus here. Fun to sing along with, fun to headbang to. A perfect chorus, 100%. Instrumental section is up next, and boy, is this shit the pinnacle of what I want out of a section like this. Starting off very strong, great riff from Kanami here as the rest of the band backs it up really well, especially Miku, who is jamming out just as hard as Kanami is, but Kanami quickly shows that she is the sensei of the two for a reason, as she blasts off into another galaxy. But Akane somehow follows along with her, giving us such a powerful solo. It's hard to listen to anything else after this. The part where it sounds like Kanami slowly falling down is the best thing I've heard her do in any song. Words simply can't describe it, and Akane's still going unbelievably. Back to the chorus and the beginning sound again as we close out the second full studio album from BAND-MAID. This album is incredible and shows the range of BAND-MAID, as they can go from the hard rock stuff, like with Honey, to the soft love type ballads with Daydreaming. This feels like they are finally starting to figure out exactly the type of band they want to be, and it's showed by the reception of this album. This is my, at the moment, second favorite album from them, but that might be changing very soon. Check this album out, as I believe this is the start of the current BAND-MAID we know and love today. As for what's next, BAND-MAID did just release their fourth full album, Unseen World, but I'm not going to cover it quite yet, as I still need to listen to it more, and I want more production history to come out, more interviews essentially, so don't expect that for the next few months. However, next I'll be doing the Daydreaming video and then tackling the singles that the band released. You know, stuff like Start Over and Screaming. My journey with BAND-MAID isn't quite over yet, and I'm truly happy for that.